I ran Enclomiphene for 3 months to raise my testosterone. Here's how I felt, what my blood work showed, and how my body changed. Before I begin, my video is not medical advice and is purely my own experience for entertainment and educational purposes only. After training naturally for more than 10 years, I decided that I didn't want the natural label to prevent me from living my healthiest, best, and most attractive self. Enclomiphene is a selective estrogen receptor modulator, which boosts your natural production of testosterone by tricking your body into thinking it's in a low T state. This is because your body regulates testosterone production by actually sensing how much estrogen is in the brain when estrogen binds to receptors in the hypothalamus and pituitary glands. Your brain uses estrogen to sense the levels of testosterone in your body because testosterone is naturally converted into estrogen, and your body prefers to maintain a natural ratio between the two. Enclomiphene mimics estrogen, binding to these same receptors in the brain, but because enclomiphene isn't actually estrogen, your body doesn't get these estrogenic signals, and instead thinks you're in a low estrogen state and therefore a low testosterone state. This triggers the release of luteinizing hormone and follicle-stimulating hormone, which then tells the testes to produce more testosterone. Studies have shown increases of total testosterone by 100 to 350 nanograms per deciliter in hypogonadal men in a dose-dependent fashion ranging from 6.25 milligrams per day all the way to 25 milligrams per day over 6 weeks. Another study also showed free testosterone increases of 40 to 100%. At the same time, safety appears to be very well tolerated. Your body retains its ability to produce testosterone naturally, and your fertility remains. Additionally, enclomiphene doesn't have a lasting effect on your body, with a short half-life of just about 10 hours, after which your body simply resets its testosterone production to baseline. This shorter half-life also reduces the incidences of more severe side effects. Enclomiphene was originally part of a fertility drug called Clomid or Clomiphene, which also contained the isomer zuclomiphene. Zuclomiphene has a greater half-life, leading to its accumulation in the body and causing estrogenic side effects such as mood swings, potential vision damage, and gynecomastia. However, these side effects have a much lower association with enclomiphene. At the same time, it's possible that these estrogenic side effects can appear with enclomiphene, since increased testosterone also increases serum concentrations of estrogen, so estrogen levels and possible estrogenic side effects should still be monitored. More commonly, enclomiphene has been documented in the medical literature to lower IGF-1 levels by almost 50% in some instances. It's theorized that enclomiphene could also block estrogen receptors in the liver, responsible for the release of IGF-1. Even though testosterone is the most anabolic increasable substance in your body, IGF-1 is anabolic as well. While IGF-1 lowering isn't optimal for muscle growth, the net effect of more testosterone should outweigh the drop in IGF-1. To combat the loss of IGF-1 and its potential effects on hair and skin, I also incorporated GH-boosting peptides such as CGC-1295 NODAC and ipamorelin. I also paid extra attention to improving my skin and hair care. In terms of my experience, I decided to take 3.125 milligrams per day every day for the past 3 months. This is because my total testosterone is already fairly high at 883 nanograms per deciliter. However, because of my fairly high SHBG of 48.5 nanomoles per liter, my free test was only 13.2 picograms per milliliter, with a normal range of 9 to 25, which is honestly in the mid-low range and could use better optimization. At the same time, I added in 2 capsules a day of Enhanced Labs Black Ox Testosterone Booster, which notably contains 25 milligrams of DHEA, 25 milligrams of pregnenolone, and 250 milligrams of fenugreek that I had previously not been taking, and boosted my daily amount of Tomcat Ali and Fidosia agrestis by a small amount. Even though I've never been a morning person and have typically done evening workouts, starting my day with enclomiphene and Black Ox really boosted my motivation and made me feel more productive in the gym even early in the morning. However, during the rest of the day, I can't say I felt that much mental or physiological difference, but that's probably because my T was in the normal ranges in the first place. The good news is I've experienced no side effects at all after 3 months of usage. Now I want to examine the impact of enclomiphene on my blood work. As I mentioned before, I also started taking 2 capsules of Black Ox daily, so a minority of the effects should also be attributed to this. For my most recent blood draw prior to my starting point, I measured my total T, free T, SHBG, LH, FSH, and prolactin. Unfortunately, I didn't get my estrogen measured. I did morning blood draws for these results. The day prior to starting enclomiphene, I also measured my IGF-1 to verify whether enclomiphene would lower it as it did in studies. 55 days after starting enclomiphene, here are my results. Shockingly, my total T skyrocketed to 1792 nanograms per deciliter, representing a 900 nanograms per deciliter increase from my previous baseline and a 100% increase. Even if some of that increase can be attributed to Black Ox, I can't imagine it would bump it up by more than 300 milligrams considering it took 1/4 of the recommended daily dosage. This would mean 3.125 milligrams of Enclomiphene daily likely boosted my total testosterone by 500 to 600 nanograms per deciliter with a conservative estimate. And at max, it may have explained almost all of that 900 increase. This certainly looks to me like I'm a hyper-responder to Enclomiphene. Looking at my other important metrics, LH and FSH expectedly rose since Enclomiphene increases testosterone through the increased release of these hormones, and prolactin did not increase, which is good. Higher levels of testosterone also result in higher levels of estrogen, so I was happy to see that even with 1792 total T, my estradiol was still under control at 32 picograms per milliliter. Throughout this time, I was taking 325 milligrams of DIM and 240 milligrams of indole 3-carbinol daily to keep estrogen balanced. What was not great was that my SHBG rose to 78 nanomoles per liter, which is way high out of range. From my research, Enclomiphene is not typically associated with SHBG increases, but my heightened T may have triggered an increased production of SHBG as well. Even though this is the highest SHBG I've ever measured, I've genetically always had high SHBG despite taking boron. I suspect this is because of my extremely high blood iron levels, which I've also genetically had for years, and has been associated with higher levels of SHBG triggered through hemochromatosis-related liver dysfunction. Overall, my free testosterone increased immensely, with the increase in total T outweighing the increase in SHBG. My post-Enclomiphene test was conducted using an equilibrium dialysis versus the immunoassay method from my pre-treatment test, so I'll have to do a bit of conversion to better compare the numbers. What I'll do instead is convert my pre and post results to a calculated free T using the Vermeulen method, using measured amounts of total T, SHBG, and albumin. Using this calculation, I get a Vermeulen calculated free T of 15.52 nanograms per deciliter versus 24.84 nanograms per deciliter, which is an estimated free T increase of 60%. Finally, my IGF-1 level stayed stable at 151 nanograms per deciliter, which is surprising to me given the literature that Enclomiphene lowers IGF-1. At least for me, at the given 3.125 milligram dose, it did not seem to have any effect. I also do not take any growth hormone, and I'd stopped my protocol of CJC 1295 NODAC and ipamorelin 6 days before my blood test, so had nothing exogenous boosting my IGF-1. Also very interestingly, my DHT measured at 24 nanograms per deciliter, right within the normal range of 12 to 65. This was extremely unexpected for me, given that I had been taking dutasteride for a year and a half and so expected my DHT to be completely crushed. However, I know dutasteride doesn't prevent all 5-alpha reductase action, so either I'm a poor responder to dutasteride, or the little 5-alpha reductase activity there is in my body still results in a decent amount of serum DHT because of my extremely high total T. Overall, Enclomiphene had a highly favorable effect on my hormone panel, with massive gains in total and free T, safe levels of estrogen, and no changes in IGF-1. But what effect did this have on my body? I definitely made notable aesthetic gains in this period, becoming much more defined at a similar body weight. My strength over this time made only the minor normal improvements that you would expect over 3 months. But because this transformation was also driven by growth hormone secretagogues, MOTS-8, and low-dose retatrutide, I can't say how much of the work Enclomiphene did. Still, as a protocol combined with peptides and consistency in the gym, I was happy with the results and I'm confident that I'll continue to improve. Given my blood work results, I'm happy to continue the dosage of 3.125 milligrams of Enclomiphene per day. 1800 nanograms per deciliter of total T is a monstrous result, and my goal is to find ways to lower my SHBG. I felt no negative side effects, and psychologically, it's helped improve my motivation for morning workouts. I'll be sure to continue documenting my routines and protocols, so be sure to subscribe.